Hello again, everyone. It's Codey. On today's episode of Filmmakers in Advertising, director Mwita Chacha interviews director Justin Rossbacher on directing through loss and grief. We began discussing the idea of sharing this story with you a long time ago, but we weren't quite sure how or when it would be the right time. We wondered, would we be helping anyone? Would anyone be able to connect with us by possibly having gone through similar experiences of their own? If so, what's the right way to share the story with you? And then we realized we had a great option right next to us in Mwita, who is a kind, highly empathetic, and generous soul. And he's also been through similarly tough circumstances in his own life. I initially wanted to share how we adjusted to such a shocking situation as a company, but ultimately we realized it was more important that Justin simply share his experience of how he had to direct one of the biggest commercial campaigns of his career at the time while receiving the news that his brother was dying. Admittedly, we may have cut out some long pauses, some sniffles, and a few moments for tears. So this is not an educational episode per se, but one that's geared more towards connection, one that hopefully, if you've ever been through hardships of your own while having to move forward during a big opportunity, you can connect with. We talk about mortality, love for your sibling, having a special relationship with your client, creating with people who you care about, anxiety as unprocessed sadness, and turning grief into art. So if you have potentially gone through similar experiences, and if you want to hear how a director navigated massive loss while in the midst of a large commercial campaign, but also how his great collaborators and friends showed up to help carry him through it, then this one is for you.
All right. Thank you, Justin and Codey, for welcoming me on the podcast. I'm excited to have this conversation with my friend Justin. As I was thinking about this, I was just realizing that we've been friends for over 10 years now. We met back in 2012 in Lynchburg, Virginia, when I was just starting out. I was actually in my first year of business when I met you, Justin. And over the years, I've definitely appreciated how much you've taught me and how much you've inspired me as a director, and always in all of your work. So I'm excited to be able to have this conversation today and really just see what we can all learn from your journey. So great place to start. I would love to know how you found a desire to be a director.
I fell into it. It was very interesting. I didn't really mean to. I enjoyed watching movies growing up. My parents did a lot of classics, Capra and Hitchcock, and I really appreciated the way a movie can make me feel and experience and take me away into a new universe, if you will. And then in high school, a couple buddies and I were on a field trip, and we just visited a Circuit City back in the day. And they had an iMac, an early iMac with an early iMovie, maybe the first version of iMovie set up, and a camera on a stick. And it was pointed out, and we could just press record on the iMovie that was hooked up to the camera. And we just did some short films right then and there. Alan and I just directed our third friend, Philip. And then that night, we just stayed up all night thinking about what if we had a laptop and a camera, and we just went out there filming things. And then I did. Later that year, I got a camera and I just started doing it, book reports. Then people started asking me to do things. So I did those. And then that same friend, I said, hey, let's make a movie. And then we just stayed up in the middle of the night for a week, storyboarding our first short film. And then I made it. And
what age is this?
I was the first camera I got my junior year of high school. So I was probably like 16, 17. And then by the time I was making that short film, I was probably 20. And yeah, so I did that before going off to college. And then again, I didn't know all the different roles, what a director, cinematographer, a grip, or production design. I just did it all. In the midst of it, we had this big shoot in a park where I asked 30 friends that were extras to come out for this big scene in the park. And it was chaos, absolute chaos. And I just knew right in the middle of it, I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I love this.
And tell me a little bit, fast forwarding to today, what would you say your specialty is in film and also as a business owner?
I love the heartfelt. I love when a commercial or movie can make me cry. I love when my own piece of art and or advertising can cause me to cry. It's an evidence to me that some kind of wall was broken down, some kind of revelation was broken down to allow me and or others that have the same experience, grief and or existential joy and or understanding or some kind of beauty in some way. So we translate that into our company, and so much to the point that we renamed. Exactly. So much so that we renamed our company to Cry. And they're like, oh, does that stand for something? I'm like, nope, just Cry. And yeah, and then the same types of things too in the screenplays that I'm writing and such, to really try to tap into that authenticity and vulnerability and see what kind of exploration can happen through that. And that hopefully by experiencing some kind of authentic, vulnerable story, that people will also feel a sense of safety to be vulnerable with themselves or vulnerable with others. Those are main things. I mean, one of our values is also fun because we don't want to lose the aspect of that life is short. Enjoy what you do with the people that you're doing it with and in the way that you go about doing it.
I can definitely attest to having a great time every time I have worked with you all. So you definitely embody your values. Is there something from your past that brought those to the forefront for you? Are there any other moments or people in your life as you were growing up that you really think, I guess, just inform your style of filmmaking?
It's a really good question. My mom is one of the most open and vulnerable people that I know. She wears her heart on her sleeve. And growing up, I appreciated it. And also sometimes I would cringe at it, depending on the context. But I overall have seen that value just reign true. Her ability to connect with people and strangers. I mean, it wouldn't be uncommon to be in the grocery line, and by the time she's checking out her groceries, the person behind her shared her life story with her. And we forget that sometimes that's possible, to just make that deep of a connection with someone that you've just met. So I don't know if I really put that together. That probably informed my personal and our company's values, but definitely probably did influence that. And then, yeah, my dad is one of the most servant-hearted people that I've ever met. So the sense of generosity, and that's one of our values as well, to not hold back. We're not saving trade secrets in our company. We're freely giving what we've learned and know. And we want the very best for our clients. We want the very best for the product. And even if it means going above and beyond. And my dad is just, I don't think I've ever heard him complain about having to do any type of action. And growing up, he had to do a lot. My brother had cerebral palsy, so he was mounted to a wheelchair. And my mom, at different points in her life, because of having to invest so much in the care of my brother, struggled with some emotional breakdowns at times. So my dad just stepped up and would do so much, never complaining, not once.
Thank you for sharing about your dad and how he inspired your work and your values. I can definitely relate to just, I feel like so much of what I try to do and like how I've been informed as a filmmaker also comes from just like the example, like my parents. It comes through in your work, I guess, that legacy or spirit.
Oh, definitely.
If I were to think of one project right now to show someone that just exemplifies who you are, who Cry is, that would be the work you all have done for Carilion, specifically the Farmer Spot and the Curious campaign. When I first saw those, I was completely blown away. I still am today. The stories are so moving and inspiring. Cinematography is gorgeous. They really give a sense of the joy, the struggle of real life, beautiful voiceover. Everything just came together really well. And obviously you had a big part of that as the director. And I think those really embody all those values that you mentioned earlier. But we know that while you were creating these, you were actually going through one of the most challenging productions and moments in your life. So could you actually just bring us in, take us back to 2018 when these projects started first coming together? How did these come to be?
So I grew up in Roanoke, Virginia, and that's where I first got started creating videos, the ones I mentioned earlier. And during that time, actually, after high school, I decided to stay home from going to college. My brother just needed some extra help at home. My mom needed some more help with that as far as setting up. And so my brother and I spent a lot of time together during that time period. And again, my brother had cerebral palsy. And so we would have certain activities and people that would come in and help out. All the while, I was running my own video commercials and videos and mainly doing weddings. That's just the way I got started. You're very familiar with that avenue too. But yeah, I would just be helping out at home. And then I ended up doing that for 3 years. And it was kind of like, maybe I'll go to college eventually. And it was around that time too, my brother really wanted to live on his own. And we were trying to figure out what that would mean because he couldn't fully take care of himself. And so that was definitely a theme throughout his life of wanting to do more than he actually could. And that was very tough. And then we as a family would fill in. And
having cerebral palsy, what were some of the things that he needed support with in everyday life that didn't allow him to live on his own?
pretty much almost everything. He had an electric wheelchair, so there was a little bit of mobility he had there, but he couldn't get in and out. He had to be carried in and out of the wheelchair, going to the bathroom, being fed, getting clothed, showered, all those things. And he had such, day to day, had such always a sunny disposition and a positive outlook on life. And I think a curiosity and really wonder about him too in the world. So going back to your question on what's influenced our values, I would say that about him. So there was a delight there, but he definitely had hopes and dreams that we couldn't fulfill as a family as far as his independence. So at the end of that 3 years, we found this amazing place called the Virginia Home in Richmond, Virginia. And it is mind blowing. And I could do a whole podcast on how amazing that place is. So he found that. I went to college. I met my business partners in college. And then we eventually just started doing small projects in the area. And it just kept on building until finally we had the opportunity to do a small project for Carilion. And then eventually they asked us to re-edit some footage they had and write new spots for them. And we did that. And then we worked with an agency to do their spots. And then eventually they allowed us to just handle the creative altogether and partner with their creative team. And then that's when we produced those spots that you mentioned, The Farmer. And then a few years later, the Curious campaign. Also during this time period, in between, I think, The Farmer and Curious, my mom was in and out of that hospital system multiple times due to back surgeries and appendicitis and just all the different types of things. So it's this interesting relationship of being both a patient and a vendor provider for this hospital network. So I believed in what they were doing, and we had a lot of freedom to really do something for them that would go beyond just like the normal hospital spots. And so we're really excited about that. And then another one that was based on a value that was shared by both the organization of Carilion and also by CRY, and that was curiosity. So we're really excited about that particular campaign. So that's the one that we were in the midst of, and we were supposed to film it all, but then snow happened. So then we had to postpone the second half of the filming, which is also a little stressful because it's a Super Bowl spot. So Super Bowl is like first week of February. But man, we're gonna make it work. But it was also difficult during this time because along the same time, my brother started getting sick. So Nathan, who I mentioned, he was in Richmond and they didn't really know what was going on. They first thought it was like he had all these spots appear over him. And so they're like, does he have measles or something? And then he had some bloating, some things happening. So they actually put him in the hospital. And then so over Thanksgiving, so right in the midst of this, I think that was in between. We had filmed in the fall for Carilion because we wanted to film outside while there's still leaves on the trees. And then we were waiting to do the second section where we filmed in all the hospitals. And in between that, my brother was getting really sick. And I remember going to visit him in the hospital, and I was like, oh boy, I don't know what's going on. But then he seemed to get a little bit better, and they would send him home. And then in mid-December, so right around the time that they're canceling the shoot, we finally get the word that he's got cancer, and it's stage 4 melanoma, a rare case of nevoid melanoma is what it was called, which the doctors didn't talk about much, but it's a type that is hard to detect as far as my understanding because it just looks like normal moles. And so I remember getting the words. I remember being quickly going to the hospital in Richmond where he was at the time and talking to the doctors and still having a hard time believing that they're giving him a month or 2 to live suddenly. Ooh. And it was really difficult. You think about mortality, you have like grandparents pass away and such, but someone that's close to your own age, your own sibling, and there's definitely a sense of wanting to be in denial about it. And what can we do? Are the doctors wrong? All this. Why did it take so long for them to find it? Because he was sick for about a month before they figured it out. And how do we go about this process? How much should we inform him? Quality of life over quantity of life, all these different types of things you just never really think that you have to deal with. So I remember going to Richmond, hearing the news directly with the doctor, really wanting to fully understand. I was so invested in knowing every little thing possible. And the reality really hit us. And she was kind, but very blunt about the reality that he didn't have long. That was super hard. And yeah, I didn't know what to process at the time. Interestingly enough, like the only thing I really knew what to do was to actually call you, Mwita, because I knew there wasn't really any answers to explore, but I just wanted to talk to somebody that unfortunately had experienced loss in his own life. And I know that your dad had passed away very suddenly.
Yeah.
So I guess you're saying you don't really know how to react. I think similarly for me, it's this slow wash because it's like, it can't be real when you hear news that sudden. That was my experience. I don't know. Obviously, you also had a full calendar and other family members. I don't know how they handled that news. Yeah, it's just all a blur. It's just, I remember calling my sister too and talking through it and trying to figure out like what our next options are and how much of it is like getting other opinions, but just having the comfort of being able to talk with you. And I think I even asked you to pray with me, and you did. Thank you. But as you said, there's still a calendar of things that happen, and my brother wasn't dead yet. And I hadn't fully accepted it. I still held out some kind of hope. Miracles happen, and or in the scientific world, they call it, I think, spontaneous remission. I looked it up. That's their name for a miracle, I think. But yeah, I still was trying to figure out like what to do. He was still around. And so I tried to spend as much time in Richmond as possible with my brother, with my family. My sister came in too, and I came in from Louisville, and we were just all spending as much time together, trying to figure out what to do, having hard conversations with the doctors, deciding to eventually get to the point of doing hospice and having him live at home in the place that he'd lived the past decade and a half. And so there's always this thing in the background, though. I have a business to run, and I have this commercial I'm directing that we haven't shot the second half to. We were supposed to have shot it already. We're supposed to be in post by ready, but we haven't shot the key actual hospital footage yet. And what does that mean? How do I serve our client the best that they need while at the same time be there with my family And so, yeah, there was a lot to process during the time, but we didn't know. We didn't know if it was going to be months. So we just moved forward. I just worked remotely from Richmond most of the time. And so there's one time I just spent a day fasting, and normally that's fine. Like I don't get hangry. My blood sugar is pretty constant and such, but I spent a day fasting, and then I ended up spending the night with him and the lazy boy while he was in the bed, just to be around him. And the next morning I woke up, the caretakers came in, they were trying to feed him, and he was struggling to keep it down. And I got really emotional. And I was like, no, that just was this realization of that really means close to the end, or not necessarily close to the end, but a signpost towards the end if you can't keep food down. And then I was standing outside the room. I started getting a little nauseous, and I was walking down the hallway. And the next thing I know is I'm looking straight up at the ceiling. And I'm like, oh, what? Is this like an X-Files thing where I had time lost and then all of a sudden it's somewhere else? And evidently that is also known as passing out, or vasovagal faint, I believe is what the doctor ended up calling it. It's the same type of thing when grown men that have never passed out in their life see their child born. Sometimes they'll pass out, and there's just like an intense emotional thing that went on. And but at the same time, I ended up hitting my head against the ground, and the ground there was this hard tile floor. And so the urgent care person's like, I think you're fine, but you hit your head. And Liam Neeson's wife hit her head. She thought she was fine, and then she had internal bleeding, and later that night she died. So you need to go get a CT scan. So we went to the ER, got a CT scan, got an EKG even. It just did the gamut. And so again, this is 2 weeks before the shoot. Again, it seems like everything's going to be okay with me. And then, but at the same time, I'm processing my brother. So things are getting worse there. But then after a day, I seem to feel fine. But it was a strange event. I think at the point, it was pretty sure that my brother was going to be okay long enough. And it was a tough, it's all a bit of a blur. But I do remember that my brother's birthday was coming up and happened to be either the first day of the shoot or the Tech Scout day. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was very early on. And we ended up having a birthday party for him, I think a day early, there at the home. At this point in time, he's not very interactive with us. Like, he's in and out. And I remember leaving. It was a hard decision, but I was like, okay, we did that. I did the birthday party. I stayed with extended family and we chatted. And then I ended up leaving to go to Roanoke, which is 3 hours away from Richmond, and go shoot this commercial, the last section of it, and figure it out depending on how things went. And it was very tough. I remember going, is that the last time I'm going to see my brother alive? And it's like, they don't think he's going to die any moment, but at the same time, who knows? We just didn't know. I think we did think it was going to be a little bit further out, but so I left and we prepped and we started the shoot. And that first day was very interesting. Working with the hospital is just its own beast as far as the OR room that you thought you had, maybe you didn't have, and the doctors may be delayed and they're not on your schedule, they're on their schedule as far as saving lives and doing things and all that. Then we broke for lunch, and then during lunch, I started getting lightheaded. And I was like, I'm not around my brother. Is this just me getting fainty again? Like, I'm going to pass out again about all the emotions that are happening. So at lunchtime, I'm like, this is crazy. I had to have help going back to our staging area and then help getting to the set again. And then I end up directing the next scene from the floor. I just sat on the floor. It was cold and cool and it was fine. And I didn't pass out and everything was good. And the crew was really sweet and stuff. Like one's, oh, maybe it's like a blood sugar thing. Here, have some jelly beans kind of thing. And I'm like, I don't think it's blood sugar. Not fully everyone knows what's going on. We didn't make it because you have this weird thing. I wanted to keep people informed, but at the same time, it's a very private thing. And I didn't want people being too different around me, like walking around eggshells. I want them to be able to just do their jobs and move forward. So it was just interesting dynamic, but they knew I was lightheaded. And eventually throughout the day, I just got a little bit less lightheaded and we were able to shoot the rest of the day out. And it was good. Then I was fine by the end of the day. And I also thought about it too, as I was sitting on the ground. I'm like, directors are known to be eccentric. Maybe this just could be that thing. I'm just the director that likes to sit on the ground and direct.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask if creatively, did you feel like you were still engaged and able to do what you set out to do that day? Or did you feel like you were holding back the floodgates of horrible pain and turmoil in the background?
That's a good question. Consciously speaking, I didn't think that I was burying emotion, but yeah, I was doing that. I was holding back. There was this buildup of things that was happening. And there was this just general stress of production that's just always there. You're always solving problems as a director. And then you know that your whole team is solving problems too, as far as logistically. And as much as Codey does a great job of protecting me from that, I also know that at any point in time, they're trying to get us to stop one scene so we can go shoot the next one up on the helicopter on the roof. And it's just this very interesting dynamic. And you just want to go, hey, excuse me, production is not done this way. And you don't. You just got to move forward with the flow and get it done. So all this is happening. But yeah, creatively, it was really well thought out. We put a lot of intention into it. We had our storyboards. We had what the camera shots were going to be. And then being on set, I knew what I wanted to get and things. So yeah, so I was able to engage and actually helped. Like the more I was able to get my mind on the creative aspects of it and problem solving, then I actually felt better. There's also things going through my head that's just going, my brother's dying. What if I'm dying? The likelihood of that is so low. That's crazy. But, you live your life and you don't really think that you're mortal most of the time. Maybe you know it consciously, but you don't think about it. But then all of a sudden, this person that you think is going to live another 40, 50 years is looking like he's not going to last that long. And so you just start thinking about yourself too. I'm like, could it be possible? And then, every little, oh, my side hurts a little bit. That used to hurt every once in a while. I wonder if there's something going on there. And now I'm like, I can't even stand up and do my job. But at the same time, I had to remember, I'm like, well, you fainted 2 weeks ago. You're probably just having something similar to that. I don't know. So again, by the end of the day, though, we were able to move forward. I'm also concerned too, because I'm like, I know the client's understanding of what's going on, but at the same time, they're spending a lot of money on this thing. And I can't have us do a bad job for them because I'm dealing with my own personal family crisis at the time. So it's this interesting dynamic of trying to do what's best for them. And then I thought we were doing a good job. We were solving problems. We were getting cool shots and all that. So I felt clear conscience as far as that was concerned. And I'm like, all right, I got to get a good night's sleep. So I get to sleep. And then I wake up with fast heart rate in the middle of the night. Can't get back to sleep. It's 4 a.m. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. I'm a guy that can sleep. So what do? I'm like, well, I might as well work out. So I go down to the hotel gym and I do a workout.
4 a.m.
4 a.m. Yep. 4 a.m. The morning of day 2 of the shoot. And then I was able to get another couple hours of sleep. Next day we start shooting. Things seem good. And then around lunchtime again, I start getting lightheaded again. I'm like, what the heck? And what is wrong with me? Am I going to be able to do it? This time, again, we're getting great shots. We're getting great performances. So again, I don't feel like I'm letting the client down and we get through it and it's good. There's still also that little voice in the back of my head. Maybe you're dying too. And it's nope, can't deal with that right now. If that's the reality, I'll just deal with it later. I got a commercial to shoot.
Too busy to die.
Too busy to die. That's right. So that night, go to sleep. I didn't last but 15 minutes. And I woke up with a fast heart rate. Wow. I'm like, what is going on? And then I go back to sleep. 15 minutes later, wake up with a fast heart rate. I just over and over again, this is happening. I'm like, what is happening? I try taking a cold shower as I try to go work out in the gym again. Nothing is causing me to be able to calm down. And I'm like, this is miserable. And I'm just alone in this hotel room. And eventually it just keeps on accelerating and accelerating. And my hands start tingling. My feet start tingling. My heart rate is just going like crazy. And I'm like, am I dying? Am I having a heart attack? What are the chances? And I'm like, my grandfather died at 52 of a heart attack. And I'm a lot younger, but maybe something's going on. And I'm like, no, this isn't it. And I call Juan, he's staying a few rooms down. And I'm like, hey, Juan, I think I need you to take me to the emergency room. Which the closest emergency room is our client's.
Oh, no. Yeah.
So it's also funny. I'm laughing to myself and I'm like, I'm in the middle of a shoot for Carilion Clinic and I might end up in their emergency room tonight, which probably everything's okay, but maybe it's not because it feels terrible and it just continues to increase. I remember reading that one of the symptoms of a panic attack is impending senses of doom. And I'm like, that's a symptom? What does that even mean? I now know what that means. I've had fear of dying before. It was like worse than a fear of dying. It was just like everything is wrong. It's just this extreme big black force that's just around you, encroaching down on you. And you feel it reverberating again through your fingers and your legs. So Juan, my business partner, good friend, we've been in this since college. We've been working on projects together. We've been a lot of foxholes production wise and a lot of foxholes, if you will, just through friendship and things going on. And he came to the room and he was very patient. He goes, dude, I will take you to the emergency room if you really feel like you need to go, but I think you may be having a panic attack. And he goes, think about what's going on right now. Your brother's dying and this is a big shoot. There's a lot of things that are going wrong and we're having to solve along the way, just like normal, but it's a little different this time around. And also just within the last 2 weeks, you had an EKG and everything was good. Nothing most likely going on with your heart. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And I start like calming down. It's still miserable, but he just stays with me and we stay up till it's time for the shoot and we're trying to evaluate what to do. And so eventually we're calling Codey up and we're informing him of the situation. And we developed that plan to still have me direct. But Juan was going to be right next to me the whole time, just in case something happened and my entire meltdown happened. And he could just step in and continue directing. And we let our DP know and we let our AD know. So we let the necessary people know. And ultimately, we just continued forth. We were confident that we could deliver the product that we needed to deliver, even if I were to drop dead or drop down from a meltdown or whatever kind of things were going on.
Just the benefit of having such a collaborative process where that even is an option because you guys have worked over this stuff together throughout the whole thing. Mm-hmm. It's not all living in one person's head. Yeah. Fantastic to have that option.
Yeah. I didn't get taken to the hospital.
You made it through the day?
And yeah, I did make it through the day, but it was still an off and on tough day. I did, when I first invited Juan over and I was like, hey, I think you need to take me to the emergency room. I knew that most likely nothing was wrong, but at the same time, you just go, I don't want to end up dead. And my parents have to grieve the loss of 2 children at the same time. So that's why I was thinking of maybe going. But once I calmed down, it was okay. Juan came with me to set. We were shooting actually one of the few shots that we shot outside the hospital. And in between one of the setups, I knew they had some time. And so I excused myself. And then I called my buddy, Josh Frericks. And I knew I wanted to call him for multiple reasons. One, because he was one of those friends that had a panic attack that I was the one taking to the hospital to get checked out. he's like, he's gone through this before, and he's a buddy that has just always been supportive. He answered the phone. He's like, dude, how's it going? Josh Frericks is also the composer for this commercial, and he knows about my brother. And I can't even tell him that I've had a panic attack. I just go, I'm having a hard time. Will you pray for me? And I just start weeping and weeping and weeping while on the phone with him. And it was very interesting. As I was weeping, there was a release of tension. This anxiety built up that was over top of me. It couldn't coexist. And that was something that really hit me. And I remember there was a woman I dated a few years before, and she was an amazingly gifted writer, and she had dealt with anxiety. And I remember reading one of her blog posts, and this blog post came to mind at this point in time, that basically said that oftentimes anxiety is unprocessed sadness. Thankfully, I have this friend where I can just be vulnerable with. It wasn't that I wasn't being vulnerable with Juan. It wasn't that I wasn't being vulnerable with Codey, but there's just a special type of vulnerability that you can have when they've been through something similar. Just like when I called you, Mwita, I think I cried on the phone with you when I called you, knowing that you've experienced loss. I called Frericks, knowing that he'd experienced a panic attack, and I just started weeping and weeping. And again, it was like, with that release, I think like anxiety is like your body and mind going, I need control and I don't feel in control. Of course I'm not in control. Things are happening that are fully outside of it. And so just having that weeping, it's just like this release that happens. And I wasn't like instantly better after that, but it was very cathartic. And then I was able to tell him what was going on. And then he did pray with me, and it was good. And then I went to the bathroom, wiped my eyes, make sure they're not too bloodshot, and I go back to set and keep on directing. And then we then went to go film in the emergency room. Yeah. So that was also funny. The whole time I was just kind of, oh, this is very funny. And then actually the doctor that we filmed in that scene and the subsequent scenes there was actually the doctor that had done surgery on my mom, had spinal surgery. And so he remembered her. And so we talked a little bit about that. And there was also special. Yeah. All these different kind of connections going on. And in some ways that just brought me a little bit of peace. Just here's another kind of connection of people have gone through hard things and people helping, and then here we are servicing our client.
I am just noticing just how cool it is to create with people that you care about and that you have relationship outside of work. Like, you have so many different connections with the people on your team, the client you're working with, specific people in that organization. So it's like personal life, professional life is all overlapping, and that's a good thing.
I also think about throughout all the days, it was a nice little window into just how beautiful humanity can be. Ultimately, it was a strange 3 days, but we got the shoot done, and then we went straight into post. And then I was about a week later, and I drove back up to Richmond to spend some time with my family and to be with my brother. And my dad called. It's late that night, and my brother had passed away. And so he called me over, and I went in and was into the room, and it was surreal. It was very surreal. And very tough. It's like, okay, now it's real. Like, now what? And then you're going through the process of taking care of things. And I remember too, like, edit was very stressful too, because we went with this Malachi style footage for the first half, where we shot kids doing interesting, creative, curious things, and then interweaving that. And we had a lot of last minute things going on. We pulled in another writer that we'd worked with in the past. Justin Snyder just saved the day and rewrote the script, just tweaked it just a little bit to fit the footage that we had, and just killed it. I was still nervous. Like, in the midst of it, you're processing grief, and you're also every single project that I go, now this is the one that I'm going to completely fail at. Then I'm going to find out to be a fraud. And this one was one of them. I was like, oh my gosh, it's not there. I like the first edit that the client just to be completely wild. And the first edit, they were like, oh, it's coming along. I'm like, ah. But by the time we got that final edit done and like everything clicked into place. And I think it was a week or so after my brother passed away, but I was good and bad to be able to invest in work. But yeah, we had done this edit. We had to deliver the next day and we were still struggling. That's when that last minute BO came in and Juan went to sleep and I took the night shift and I just edited 12 hours straight, just working on it, putting in the VO. And like all of a sudden things are firing and I'll move this there, move that there, move that there. Oh man, I think it's finally working. And then Juan came in and finished it up and he's, dude, I think you're finally making it work. I'm like, yes. And then sent it to the client. And then I remember getting a personal call from the VP of marketing like the next day. And he goes, I just wanted to personally thank you. Like you hit a home run with The Farmer a couple of years ago, but I think you hit another home run. Wow. And it's getting good feedback. I don't know if it could top it, but in some ways, you may have topped it. I'm like, that's what you want to hear. And it was hit or miss there, wondering in the middle of the shoot whether we could even finish the shoot properly. But we did it. And to kind of recap this process too, so I had started a screenplay that was inspired by my relationship with my brother before he was sick. Yeah. And Mwita, you're very familiar with it. You've been with me on that journey.
Script.
And I hadn't finished it at that point in time. There was just certain things that just weren't clicking. So I just put it down for a while. And then, oh my gosh, like I thought this would be something like my brother could experience or do, it was to celebrate his life. And I remember at the memorial service, they ended up having a memorial service at the Virginia home. And like tons of the residents show up. We have friends that came in from out of town that grew up with them, that knew them for a long while. They came in, and some of the residents have written things. Some people that worked there that had special relationships with Nathan said things. And I was just blown away. It's the most beautiful. I mean, I know I'm biased because he's my brother, but quite legitimately and just in an objective way, I think it's the most beautiful like memorial service I've ever been a part of. And they told stories about what he was like. And I knew that to be the case of what, but it was almost like I didn't even know to the level of the spark and joy that he provided to people. And I was like, I know that type of story. I didn't realize he kept on doing that type of stuff here when he lived here because I wasn't around. Just small things like he has an instant formula for how to become your best friend from right away. He'll see you, he'll smile at you, and he'll say, I like you, I kiss you. And a lot of people spoke and they choked up and struggled and it was hard to hear. But then it was really interesting. It just really helped codify. I was like, I know how to end and I know the type of story this needs to be for this script. And so then it went from just celebrating someone that was still here to celebrating the life and memory of my brother. It was still a tough process. It still is, but it's going to be, I don't know. It's very special. I wanted it to be the low budget movie that I could just go shoot myself, maybe even be one of the actors, but now I like it too much. I want a budget. I want Oscar Isaac to play one of the main characters.
It's very beautiful. And even just being able to have read it and talk about it has been special to me because that's, I guess, my only knowledge of knowing your brother is really through my conversation with you. I don't think we ever, I didn't have the pleasure of meeting him in person.
Ew. Yeah, I think you're right. I let a friend read it here in New York and she read it. She said some nice things right afterwards and it was great. But then a year later, I was at, I think, a birthday party of hers. We don't talk a ton. And she pulled me aside and she said, I just wanted to pull you aside and tell you something. I'm like, okay. And she goes, I want to let you know, like, she had lost her father that past year to, I think, cancer. as well. And she was struggling to process it and stuff, but she just went, I want to let you know, reading your script has unlocked something for me. It's just so beautiful. I feel like I know your brother, and I feel like he lives on because you've written this story, and it's allowed me to invest in my own writing and work that I know that I want to do. I mean, it's the surreal moment of, even if the movie never got made, because someone else had just written the script, they had this moment of catharsis and like understanding and processing their own grief and figuring out how to translate that into art. And I'm like, yes, that's why we do what we do, why I do what I do. And whether it's through commercial making or whether it's through filmmaking, those genuine touch points is just what makes it all meaningful.
Yeah. Wow. How are you doing today? It's been a few years, you and your family. Have you had other panic attacks?
I have. So soon after that, within the next couple of weeks, I saw my counselor at the time, and he goes, "Yep, sounds quintessential panic attack kind of thing." And I could sense it coming every once in a while. I'm like, "Ooh, I don't like it." So I cut out caffeine in my life for the most part, and then it pretty much just never dealt with it. About a year and a half ago, I had another moment. It was a little bit different. This one was much more psychological. And I remember watching the show Mr. Corman with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and he has a panic attack in that show. And it reminded me of that. I was like, oh, that's the style one that I had the second time. But I'd been through it before. It was less intense. I don't think that was necessarily due to unprocessed sadness. It just certain things compounding from a previous relationship that I was in, just kind of realizing some of the aspects of it that I didn't really process until after it was over. And overall, the family, it's tough. Like, how much do you spend time remembering, and how much do you spend time living your life? And you want to celebrate, but you don't want to live in the past. And so it's an interesting balance they continue to try to figure out. And right now, it's tough. My mom has just suddenly developed some cognitive issues, and we hope it's temporary. But one of the effects is like she's reliving my brother's death as if it like just happened. And it is really hard to watch and hear about. And hopefully that's temporary. But yeah, but we're overall moving forward, see if we can get this movie made.
Yeah. Has the experience changed your perspective on the industry, or just the types of projects you work on, or how you work on them?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, so it's definitely allowed us to have a different perspective. Definitely in the type of projects, I always had a heartbeat for those that are disadvantaged or disabled or have gone through tough things, but to be able to tell those stories through film is just really meaningful to me. It's just another layer that's just added on top of it. So yeah, it makes me want to take more of those projects and or infuse it into the projects that we have.
Is there anything you think others can learn from this experience, who are going through their own stressful career and life moments?
I guess if it's legitimately not life or death, then it's not that big of a deal. Whatever big project or client and or initiative or anything that you have going on that just feels like your identity is built around it, that if you don't do it, or if you don't deliver, or if you fail in some kind of way, that all will be lost. All will not be lost. Like, it'll all pass away and not be that significant, but the people that you love, the acquaintances that you have, whether through strangers, through vendors, clients, coworkers, those interactions, they're the ones that matter.
What are you most grateful for through this experience?
I'm grateful for the love of family, the love of friends, the grit of coworkers, and because I wasn't the only one going through tough times at this point in time. Codey, our producer, he was going through some tough things himself in his own life. And it was one of the most stressful times in his life as well that I was unaware of. And we talked about it afterwards. But as Codey has said, you don't know what's going on in other people's lives. You don't know their story. You just don't know. Even when they're close to you, sometimes you don't even know. And so that was also very insightful to hear. But yeah, I'm grateful for his friendship and his work ethic. I'm grateful for the craft that we have, an art that we can invest in. I'm grateful for other people being earnest and investing in that craft, whether it be through commercials or films. There is a catharsis that can be reached. And I'm thankful people have been obedient to that call of the muse to invest in it. And yeah, I have a lot of things I'm thankful and grateful for. What's the difference in being grateful and being thankful? Do you know the difference?
I don't use them differently. I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think I do either, but yeah.
I think there's a gravitas to grateful.
The gravitas. Yeah.
Yeah.
I realized I shifted to saying thankful, and I'm like, well, there's a little bit more of a poetic gravitas. That's a good way of wording it.
Because you can say a quick thank you, but then being grateful for something, I feel like is more of a
That's true. Maybe
state.
is a state of being. Like I am in a state of gratefulness. Like this will linger longer. Like my gratefulness for your friendship, Mwita. Like rather than thank you for being my friend. Out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is a great moment for me to say thank you, Justin, for sharing your story. And like I said at the top, for always being an inspiration to me and for being just such a fantastic part of my life. And I do love when the personal and professional connect. A lot of my best friends I get to work with every day. So, and you're one of those people.
I thought only your best friends are the people you work with.
Actually, that is true.
No, I appreciate it too. Yeah, your friendship has been fantastic, and I'm glad that you had similar field of interest, because we probably wouldn't be friends if you didn't.
Probably not.
So yeah, and I'm thankful for Codey's friendship too, because I don't think we would be friends if he just happened to not want to do the same thing. So, and I really am eternally grateful for both of that.
Hey everyone, we hope you enjoyed this episode with Justin Rossbacher and Mwita Chacha. You can find links to their websites and social media profiles in the show notes. We'd love to hear from you, to know if you have also had to navigate a big opportunity or opportunities while going through similar experiences that may have seemingly turned your own world upside down. If you have any guest recommendations, please let us know on Instagram or Facebook or via a review on Apple Podcasts. From Cry, a creative production and post house based in New York City, I'm Codey, and this was Filmmakers in Advertising.